Hello and welcome to another Rudridge tutorial video. Today I'm joined by Paul Duke, the General Manager of Rudridge. Paul, what are we going to be looking at today?
Today, Tony, we're going to be looking at our range of access covers and frames and gully gratings. And we're going to be discussing their purpose and a few technical aspects.
So where are we going to start, Paul? Lots of different numbers and letters on this one.
Well, Tony, this is a heavy-duty access cover and frame manufactured from ductile iron. This one has a kite mark on there and is manufactured by Peter Savage Limited. It's to European standard EN124 and it's a D400 loading. So
as you explained, Paul, lots of different markings, but what specifically do they mean?
This marking here is the BSI kite mark. Importantly, this is the third-party accreditation that it conforms to BS EN124, the European standard.
So what application will we use this cover for, Paul?
Tony, this cover is a D400 loading cover and frame. That means it can withstand 40-ton test loading, gross laden vehicle weight. You would use this in a minor road or housing and residential areas.
Okay, you mentioned heavy loads. Would you be able to use it on a motorway, for example?
This particular cover and frame, no, you wouldn't. For fast-moving areas like motorways and where there's high dynamic loadings, we would recommend the Peter Savage Ultra range, which is a higher specification of cover and frame. This cover and frame we're going to be taking with us to install on site in Godalming later on today.
We're in the Rudridge yard, lots of different covers around. Paul, how would I know which size to choose?
Tony, it would depend on the opening of the chamber or the access on a draw pit.
Let's look at the size of the cover then, Paul. I'll do the measuring if that's okay.
Okay, Tony. As you can see, you've measured 500mm. This is a common mistake that most people make. You don't measure the cover itself. Let me show you. All manhole covers are measured by the internal opening size of the frame. As you can see, it now measures 450 by 450. And that is the opening of your access.
So this is a cover and a frame together. Can I buy them separately or do you have to buy them both together?
No, Tony. The cover and frame are manufactured together and are tested accordingly. Occasionally we are asked to supply the cover only to replace a broken lid. The cover and frame, as I said earlier, is manufactured as a pair, and if you replace just the lid only, it could lead to failure.
You mentioned the broken cover. What would be the reason for the cover failing?
In most circumstances, it's the customer using the wrong bedding mortar or the wrong cover in the wrong application. Usually it's a failure on the material underneath the cover, not the cover itself.
So the bedding mortar is clearly important?
Yes, Tony, the bedding mortar is important. Most failures happen below the frame. It's important you get the right bedding mortar for the right application.
Well, we're going to take the 600 cover over to the housing site in Godalming, Surrey, Paul, and as we look around this fantastic Rudridge yard, you know, what strikes me is how much choice you've got. So it's so important, isn't it, to choose the right products?
Oh, definitely, Tony. I mean, as you can see here, we've got a complete range of access covers, gully gratings, different sizes, and they all have different loadings, different thickness for different purposes. We've got gully gratings here that are designed for pedestrian use. We have gully gratings here that are hinged to go against the curb. We have larger diameter, larger opening covers and frames. This is our 600, and over here you see your 675, which is the standard opening for all new manholes.
I think we're ready to go. Let's go to the site.
Yeah.
We've left the Rudridge yard in Farnham and we've now come to a housing site in Godalming, Surrey to see the installation of the manhole cover. Paul, what are we looking at now?
Tony, we're looking down at a storm drain here, which has already been prepped for the bedding of a manhole cover and frame. what they've done, they've got 2 courses of engineering bricks. You could use seating rings, which is 75mm, to get the minimum requirement of 150mm before you bed the manhole cover and frame on top.
So Paul, how do we begin the installation?
We have Steve and Dan here who have prepared a high strength bedding mortar and are just about to bed the frame.
So is the depth of the bedding mortar critical?
Well, Tony, the minimum depth of the bed to go below the frame is 10mm and the maximum is 40mm. The guys are now going to position the frame.
So Paul, I'm guessing it's pretty obvious the frame's got to be positioned correctly.
Yes, Tony. The frame must be fully supported and square to the manhole. Poorly positioned frames are the most common cause of failure. Steve has erected a string line to adjust the level. Steve is now going to remove the lines so he can haunch the side of the frame. The guys are now going to haunch the side of the frame. They have made sure that the holes in the side of the frame have been filled with mortar. This is to key the frame in position. The minimum requirement for haunching is 10mm, but in this instance they're going to do 40 to 50mm. Another essential part of the installation is there are no voids underneath the frame and the pointing is sound. And the frame now is fully seated and needs to just cure before they can place the cover and frame. Tony, we've now completed the installation of the manhole cover and frame. The cover has been put in place, the bedding mortar is now cured, and all we have to do now is wait 24 hours before we can traffic the manhole cover.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's tutorial video. My thanks to Paul and everyone at Rudridge, and also to Peter Savage. For more information on this product and all other groundwork and civil engineering materials, please visit the Rudridge website on www.rudridge.co.uk.